All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to this month's SOAR Disability Ministry Network. So glad to have you all join us. Before we kind of get everyone introduced and get started with it, let me just open us up in prayer, and then we can get going with things. But let me pray for us. Our gracious Heavenly Father, God, we just thank you so much for this day. Thank you for all that you do. God, I thank you for those that are here. Just pray now that you bless our time tonight. Just help us as we are trying to do ministry to serve your families with disabilities. Just pray that we can be more effective in serving these amazing families. God, I pray that you just help us be able to help one another out. And Lord, I pray that you will just give us wisdom and discernment. And Lord, just pray that you will help those who are trying to get it on, find time to be able to make it and be able to get here, and just those who will be watching in the future, just that they will get what they need from this as well. And we thank you for all that you do and pray this in your great and holy name now. Amen. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. We got a couple new faces on here, which I love. So why don't we just go around? I'll call your name, and then if you would just share who you are and where you're from, and what role you play, if you're a ministry leader or a volunteer or just here in general, and then share also what part of the country you're in. I know we've got a couple different parts on here, and then if there is some specific question that you are hoping to answer tonight or ask, you can go ahead and mention that, and we'll kind of circle back around. But that way it just kind of might help us think about some of those, and then we'll get there. So I'll just go in the order on my screen that I see here. So Kimberly, you're the first up on my screen. Can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself? Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm Kimberly Splitter. I'm from Lee Summit, Missouri. I am right now just like in a volunteer position, but I'm helping the leaders at my church get their special needs ministry started at Eagle Creek.
Awesome. And we actually just had a whole group from Eagle Creek out at one of our events a couple of weeks ago. So that was awesome.
Yes, I wanted to come, but it was already full, so I wasn't able to come, but hopefully next time I'll be out there.
That's all right. Well, we've always got something. You're always welcome. So glad to have you here. All right, Mr. Tate, welcome, my brother. You're muted. Go ahead, unmute yourself and tell everyone who you are besides a good jokester.
Yeah, I'm the Doctor of Psychopath. I'm paid with Colorado, and I work with members that
Yeah, and Tate actually says that better than I can. He's with Meshibacheth Ministries in Colorado Springs. And like I said, I can't even say it. So, yeah. All right, Tate, we're glad to have you here. So, all right, Kimberly, why don't you introduce yourself? Or I'm sorry, Kimberly already did. Mercedes. I'll get there with it. My brain's not working.
Hi, everybody. So I've been getting these emails from you guys. I've been meaning to always join you guys, but so I'm from Florida. We're from Northland Church with Community Arts Connections. It's our adults program. Currently I'm all my position, so I know you asked for a position. So currently I'm between our Access Ministries, coordinator for Access Ministries, which is our early learning center, children's, which is grade school, teenagers. And I'm kind of toggling off of that and kind of being the coordinator for our adults program.
Awesome.
Which was owned prior by an amazing lady who I worked with her husband. I was a teacher with him in the other school. And we're just trying to figure out things that, to piggyback off her vision for our program, but to also kind of see what God tells us and what he wants us and to do new for our community. So I reach out to many programs and trying to, just be the God, the ears that God wants me to be and just hear all the ideas that you guys have. So that's what I'm looking forward to. That's my goal.
Love it. Love it. Well, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Yeah. And I've seen you on the list a couple times, so I'm glad to actually meet you here. Love having you. So welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Carol, welcome. If you could unmute and just share who you are, where you're from, and if there might be any questions or anything you're looking for tonight.
Hi, did you say Carol? I'm like trying to.
Yes, Carol.
Hi, guys. Yeah, how are you? Today's a late night for our family with different after school, events. I'm Carol. I met Doc at Kidman a while ago, a couple times, sat in your workshops. I've also, like Mercedes said, have been wanting to jump on for a long time. And so I just want to, glean from the wisdom that's on here. I wish I would have gone on sooner in life, but here I am. But yeah, so I'm actually helping a couple of families that have joined our church and their children are autistic. So just trying to recruit more help and see what I could do for the families.
That's awesome. Carol, remind me, you're up in New York, right?
I am. We are Orange County.
Orange, yeah. Okay. All right. Scary. I actually remembered that. So, all right. Well, and then I'm Doc Hunsley. I'm the executive director and founder with SOAR. We're a nonprofit, and one of the things I'm passionate about is come alongside churches and helping them either create ministry to serve families with disabilities or take what they already have to the next level. I've now assisted over 550 churches throughout the United States and 17 countries around the world. A lot of different experiences with that. So that's what I love doing. That's one of the reasons doing these networks, just so give leaders a chance to come on, ask questions. I know there's always questions. When I was a disability ministry leader and pastor, I would frequently have things that come up that I didn't know what to do. And I would have loved to have, something where I could bounce things off of other people. So, that's what this is all about. So with that, the time is all yours. And anyone can answer, anyone can ask anything. But this is a network where we're here to help each other. So saying all that, let me just, throw out, does anyone have any questions or anything they'd like to ask or kick us off with start? I know it sounds like Kimberly trying to start something. We got Mercedes looking to maybe, or not, it doesn't sound like starting, but trying to figure out the whole adult side. So, we can talk through those things. Anything specific, other questions you guys have, I'll throw it out. I'll be quiet and then let others answer. If not, I'm happy to talk. Oh, and just real quick, the one thing I should have said, I'll say just real quick, we are recording this. We will put this up on YouTube. So if we do end up talking about any individuals in ministry, I just ask that we don't use real names or anything, just so that we can keep them anonymous. But it's absolutely okay to say, you've got a 10-year-old male or something. We just don't need to say it's Johnny with that. So go ahead. I just always forget to mention that. So go ahead. If anyone's got a topic or question, let's talk.
I'll throw one out there if you guys don't mind. So we're planning, so like I said, we are piggybacking off a program that was run by this amazing lady who it kind of branched off and starting her own program, similar, serving special needs community. But all the platforms that she had social media platforms that we look forward to. Because we're shifting our name, we still have the same families. We're lucky and fortunate enough to have 43 families that are still with us. But I kind of want to see what you guys think for your ideas and thoughts of, like, I believe the plan is to shut down the social media accounts and like social media platforms that was created to build again, or I don't know what you guys think of just building on what was there and kind of shifting, like just because the social media platform has a lot more people than who were there, who probably just kind of fell off and did their probably moved away. So I don't want to lose those families, because sometimes they could come back, or maybe they have still friends and families that are in this neighborhood. So I
Right.
just want to see what you guys would do and what you guys think on that.
Anyone have a thought with that? I'll be quiet, let someone else talk first. Well, for me, I would highly recommend you using what you currently have. Not deleting it and starting all over. It's kind of marketing 101. You don't want to lose the people you've already got. It's hard to get people to sign up for things. If you already got them signed up, you got it. It's easy to go in and just change the name, rebrand everything. That's a whole lot less work to do. And so I'd recommend doing that. Like you said, you've already got people that are seeing that's already in their streams. Facebook has, or Meta, however you want to call it, has changed all the logarithms. So you starting up something completely brand new, even if they sign up again, it may not get into their channel where they'd be seeing things where they might be right now. So you might have the people that you want to be seeing it are currently seeing the stuff, but if you delete it and restart it, they all of a sudden may not see it anymore because they don't have enough experience with that. And it's just part of the logarithm in Facebook, which makes zero sense with it, but that's just how it is. So I think that would make a lot more sense. Really kind of the thing is, if you got people on there who aren't a part of it anymore or don't participate in the ministry, do anything, who cares? I actually view that as a good thing. Let others see it and see that you're doing something different. You're growing and doing things, and it might build more excitement. You might all of a sudden get people who are going, oh, okay. And those other people, their friends are more apt to see it. So when you stop it and delete it, you all of a sudden lose not just the people that are on there, you're losing all their friends and all those circles. So you've already got this network, however many it is, let's just say it's 100 people. Well, if you start all over again, it's going to take you quite a bit of time to build back up to 100 people and have that influence. Where if you already have them, then you can be focusing on what you've got, rebrand it, and really make an impact with that. And it takes a whole lot less time to just redo it. You can remove administrators, add administrators. And so that would be my recommendation for it.
Okay.
With it. I think you'll get a lot more bang for your buck. It doesn't cost either way, but you'll get a lot more marketing help that you'll want. So the whole reason we're doing social media is to get exposure. The last thing you want to do is just throw away that exposure.
Right. Okay. I will definitely take all of that and pray.
And I'm pretty sure, most people in the social media world, that would probably be their recommendation. You never want to try to get rid of what you have now, unless there's individuals you are trying to get off. But that's not what it sounds like here. It sounds like you just have individuals who some are active, but then you get several who aren't. It doesn't hurt to have those who aren't. They may check it out. They may get interested again, and having the whole new theme and whole new name and branding may revitalize everything and get them re-energized and excited again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Anyone else have any thoughts on that? Or all right. Okay. Anything else or anything else with the adult ministry? Why don't we talk a little bit more on the adult ministry here? You said you're trying to figure out how to relaunch that or do things. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're hoping to do or where you're at, and maybe we can kind of help talk you through some of that.
Okay, so right now we starting with 3 cohorts, which is life skills. I'm sorry. Oh, he'll come back. It's my son. It's with life skills, visual arts, and performing arts that we have. Those are the 3 cohorts that we have, that we give parents to kind of give their artists to pick from. Right now we're just, like I said, we're just starting off. We're piggybacking on someone else's idea. Still same families. They have given us so much grace and kind of like, we're still, sometimes we're deers before headlights. We're like, we'll figure it out, like as a team. So all the families that have been sticking by us and been loyal to the program have been great on that. But we definitely want to keep growing with ideas when it comes to like even how volunteer work would play into that. Or volunteer workers, I think they said.
I'm sorry, just kind of clarification for us. Does your program meet on Sundays, kind of worship services, or is this a day program for the week?
I'm in a meeting. Give me 1 second. I'm in a meeting. Actually, do me a favor, answer that call. It's Noah. Tell him that I'll pick him up in half an hour.
Where's the remote? Give me the remote.
Okay. Hi, sorry, I have teenage kids. Can you tell?
Hey, we all relate and understand. You're good.
Answer him. Where are they going? Oh, so no, so it's a day program. We meet Monday through Friday from 9 to 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. And how many do you have in the program?
43.
Wow.
So I'm so excited because we started with 25 in the summer, and it has like shot up, and we're like, okay, and we try not to panic because we're like, all right. We try not to panic because we're Luna. I'm in a meeting. I asked you to answer that way, honey. Luna, you told him I'm gonna pick him up at half an hour. Okay. We're trying not to panic because we're like, okay, we want to be in the community, but we also didn't anticipate such a fast growth. So we're trying to literally keep up and to still serve, but we don't want to underserve a community that literally was already underserved. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that's our biggest fear, kind of like we don't want to present something and not keep up and not deliver. But at the same time, we do want to have all these ideas and people come in and kind of school us on like, hey, what worked for you guys? What can we do? What can we look forward to? We don't know what we don't know. So it's like, we're all very hungry with want ideas, but we have that fear still of like, can we live up to that expectation now to present it to families to be able to come through, to follow through with it.
Right.
So
what ages do you have?
They're all adults. So they're all from 20 to we have to 40 to 43, 45.
Love it.
Yep.
Love it. Very cool.
Yep.
And then just curious, how many staff do you have working with the 43?
So each cohort has about 2 full-time staff. And then we have like part-timers. We have we have part-time. We have like 3 that are part-time. I don't want to say names, but yeah. And then we're definitely trying to see how it would work to have like volunteer, which will be called volunteer workers. But if maybe they're like, they need the hours for college or for high school, right, kind of work that in there. Just because, so our access ministry, that did work off volunteers only. So it was just a director. Then I was the coordinator for him. And then everybody else was just based off volunteers. So we know with our, with this program, it'll be a lot more harder, but we definitely want to kind of introduce that volunteer aspect in there because our volunteers are amazing. So they definitely are.
That's wonderful. So then do you meet at the church or do you have another location that you meet at?
So the church is pretty huge. So we have a main worship center, and then on the side we have it's called the Rink. So it's a smaller building. It's actually where the church really originally started.
Okay.
And then the other land was just dirt from what I understand. It was nothing there. Then they were able to throughout the years build that huge amazing church. And then that turned into now they remodeled it now to kind of suit our program, which was a great blessing. So we have literally all 43 that fit comfortably. We actually have at least 1 or 2 classrooms at all times that are empty. So that's why we're so hungry for ideas, because it's like, do we have the space and location? Yes. It's just the other, which everybody else usually has the opposite problems. Like, yeah, we have all this families in this, but we don't have enough space or location. So
Yeah.
the fact that we're blessed with the space and location, we're trying to see how we can grow, but to grow at a healthy rate. Then faster than what we can give. Like, we don't want that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm praying for, and for answers to kind of be given to us. So
Very cool. Very cool. Well, love what you're doing. That's a huge need. One place I'd maybe suggest that you reach out to, and I can connect you afterwards if you want to email me. There's a church here in the greater Kansas City area called Church of the Resurrection, and their disability ministry is called Matthew's Ministry, and they have a day program that they do that's become very successful. And so that might be a good place for you to go to kind of pick their brain and see what they're doing. Part of their day program, they've also, one of the things that's cool, they've got a bakery they've started with their individuals, and they call it the Sunshine Bakery, and SON, and then they make baked goods, especially cookies, and sell to the church and then the community to help.
What's it called? Sunshine
Bakery.
Bakery.
Yeah,
that would be great. So one of our goals for that's coming up pretty soon is, we had culinary kind of mixed in with life skills. But then we quickly saw how a lot of families are literally just coming in for the culinary side of it.
right.
So we're actually hopefully moving forward, it's going to be its own cohort on its own. So if I could definitely connect with someone and have like conversations on how they began, that would be great for sure.
Yeah. So and I'm pretty sure you got my email. I'll put it in the chat here, but it's doc@soarspecialneeds.org, and then I'm happy to make that connection for you afterwards. And I know they would love to talk with you and I'd probably put you in connection with the person in charge of the ministry, and then I'm not sure who's in charge of the day program anymore. I don't know if it's the same lady that was there previously. But she'll know the right person and get you in touch there. But it's phenomenal. They do great job. They have a wait list of people to come to be a part of the program. So so they, same thing like you're talking about, they've had nice influx, but they've actually had to limit it because of the space and the number of people they've got. But I know they've got a wait list, and they do a fabulous job. So there's just not enough churches that do that, but that's one that I know right off the top of my head, and here in my backyard that they do a phenomenal job, and they would love to talk with you to help.
Okay. Amen. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right. Anyone have any questions for Mercedes, or any comments on anything she's doing with that? That sounds really cool and exciting. That's a huge need. We need many more day programs. I know everywhere, our community here as well, the over 18 population really is forgotten and not much there. But we need to do everything we can to find more things for our over 18 population. They keep losing resources with it. So cool. All right. Well,
You said Kimberly is also starting something else. Kimberly, is it with adults or with kids?
It's youth. It's like in our church, like a youth ministry.
Okay, awesome. You started volunteering, you said that it's
Yeah, I started volunteering as just volunteering on Sundays. But my profession, I'm a special education teacher. So then I had a lot of that knowledge already. And so I've just kind of been working with them, helping to kind of get like we're looking at like a buddy type system, setting that up for the kids. We have several kids that have behavioral needs. And so I find it to be challenging coming from like a school setting and then having like trying to apply that to like the church setting.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have like this, behavior idea of how it, how to teach it. And I have to remember I'm not
with the structure, modification. Yeah.
school. I'm at church and
It's all
but
different.
they have to have the correct behaviors to be able to learn about Jesus because they can't learn if they're, eloping out of the room and stuff like that. So it's been an interesting challenge, but one that I'm thankful for and excited to grow in.
Awesome.
Okay. Awesome. So I actually, with our access ministry, that is how I started. I started as a volunteer. And then that's how my director kind of like eased me into it. But same thing, we were both teachers, special needs teachers with a lot of experience, just experience. But it's true, like, having that classroom modifications and then applying it to a church, but you only have like an hour and a half. But you also can't report to parents because they already hear it. They already heard it from other churches and how they're, that fear of like, I don't want my child to be removed and you know what I mean? But you also want to give them that peacefulness, like, hey, no, we're here to work with you. But you also want them to be like, oh, I'm not coming back to this church because they see my child as the problem child, which is no, we're all here to help out. We're used to this, but we know that if you work at home and we work together, it could be done. But you're right. I mean, I'm also always big on like inclusion. So being the coordinator there's some students that, yes, they do need to be in that self-contained room with me, but there's others that they try to push them into our room, and I'm like, no, they can go back with a buddy, they can go be included. Yes, do you have to say things in maybe in a different kind of presented to them differently or on a lower educational level? Yeah, you can do that. The other buddy, whoever's with them, that volunteer, can modify that lesson or the curriculum to suit them, so it's also that push and shove between staff and volunteers. So I totally get it. I mean, if I could always give you my email too, then me and you can talk. And you also have other like agencies, Johnny and Friends. We have Buddy Break. I don't know if you guys have Buddy Break, different things that you can include and kind of have ideas in your church for the youth. So for sure.
Well, yeah. Let's unpack it a little bit more, but real quick, Tate had a question for Mercedes. He was saying, just wondering, how are your day programs funded?
So our parents pay.
Okay, it's full pay. Is there anything through Medicaid or waivers or anything?
No. So moving forward, we're trying to see how that would be. But you need like the Medicaid number, you need a lot of other things to be set in place by the state for us to be able to apply those and kind of say, hey, listen, we can, you can apply or you get refunded. I know there's one right now, we're waiting from a parent to hear back from them that kind of whispered into our ear, like, hey, if you do this and that. And so we changed the website. If you present a schedule, kind of, we are a nonprofit program, but if you make it, if we follow more of the outline of a curriculum like other schools, he can get a refund on his behalf for his family. So we were kind of like, yeah, please let us know, because if that's what it takes for us to change our website for parents to get refunds from, from any kind of help from the state, that'd be amazing, because that would only make it easier for families for, to actually get the help that they need for their artists. So yeah, but right now it's definitely out of pocket. Yeah, we have some donors, but the donors we have, like, we get to know in the beginning. So we already know, like, depending on how many donors we have, we're like, all right, we can give out. And by then you don't want to be that person to be like, okay, we have 9 scholarships. Who do you give it to? We love all of them, so it puts us in a predicament too. So, yeah.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. Kimberly, let's kind of unpack and And the whole youth part is one of the things I absolutely love with that and doing. And so Tate also just real quickly said he's hoping to do a project or a paper on day programs for seminary. So he's really tuned into that topic. So maybe that's something that Tate and Mercedes could connect to, and maybe help Tate and get some information for his seminary paper for that. But let's talk about disability ministry on Sundays and then our youth. So first off, I'm going to address a couple things that both you and Mercedes talked about. Both of you coming in with a special ed background, which is fabulous. And that's wonderful. But you also both have shared how that can also bring in some frustration, because the thing we have to remember, church is not school. Kimberly said it, it's not school. And what works at school does not work at church. And I can't tell you the number of programs I've seen fail and they've just completely given up because they've had special ed teachers trying to run it and trying to do it at school, and it doesn't work. Where, like me, I've never been a special ed teacher. I've just done the ministry side, and I got a lot of the ideas and understanding from the school and with that, but ministry is completely different beast, if you would say. Now I'll freely admit I am 100% all for inclusion. I love the buddy system. That's my preference. But we have to understand that first off, a good special needs or disability ministry is you're gonna meet the needs of whoever comes in. And so it also, no one should ever outgrow your program. So if you start in children's, which is fine, many programs do, you're going to have to meet the needs of the youth. And so it kind of sounds like that might be where Eagle Creek is right now. Where I'm guessing, did you guys start with kids, or where are you at?
Yeah, I misspoke on that. It's not like our youth ministry. It's the kids that we're starting.
Okay, perfect. All right, so kids. And for you as the children's ministry, then up to like 5th grade, up to 6th grade?
Yeah, they go until 5th grade, and then 6th grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then, so you need to be able to have something for them when they are in student ministry, that 6th grade up. And then you want something like Mercedes dealing with now when they're adults, so we can do that. Now let's just kind of talk about children's ministry and everything. It's vital that I love doing an inclusion, having that buddy system. I feel that really works well. You don't have to have, I really don't think you have to have a specialized curriculum for them. What I found overall is usually if you have them included in the general Sunday school class, most of the Sunday school curriculum, especially in the elementary, it's written about a 3rd grade level. The preschool curriculum's written about a 3 or 4 year old level. Those levels actually are okay for our friends overall with it. What they really need, though, is just a buddy, whatever you want to call it, whether it be a buddy or a guide, a champion, a VIP, whatever you want to call them. It's a guide on the side who helps keep them safe, who helps keep them focused, who can identify when they're starting to get a little overstimulated, who can help see that they need a break, who can let them know there's a transition coming up. Okay, 3 more minutes before we go somewhere else. These are all things that can help them with that. But they're not the actual one who's usually doing the teaching. You still have the teacher, you still have the worship group, whatever with that. And even saying that, one of the things I always love doing is telling the parents, and someone mentioned it, I don't remember who, I totally agree. Not everyone is going to need a buddy. I will evaluate the kids, especially when they come the first time. And I always have a parent from the first time my parents come in. When I meet them for the first time, the very first question I ever ask, and I hope all of you take this on, my very first question is, tell me something wonderful about your child. Tell me something wonderful about your child. And frequently, almost always, they start telling me all the bad things, the diagnosis and all the bad things. And I stop them. I'm like, nope, time out. I want to know something wonderful. And they stop. And almost always parents start crying because no one's ever asked them that before. Because everyone just needs to know the behavior issues and how to deal with that. And we miss out so much. I have prevented so much behavior because I know the positive things. I know the wonderful things. You know, I had one that they told me he's an amazing artist and loves to draw. Well, guess what became my reward for him? You know, a great paper and markers that he can draw. And that's something we can work towards. And I can get him to do whatever I need because he wants to draw. And so he's okay with sitting for our Bible story for 5 minutes if he knows he's going to get back to the room and he can draw. That works. And then we can figure out everything else. But I also evaluate them and see, do they really need to have a buddy? I always love telling the parents, I'm going to allow them to try to succeed on their own. Now, there are going to be a handful of kids, you see them, you know, right off the bat, oh, they're going to need help. As they're bouncing all over, or they may be in a walker, or they may be in a wheelchair, and you know they're just going to need some extra assistance. Great, we get them that assistance and help them with that. The important thing is training. That's going to be the big vital part for all of this, is that we do training. And here's where the training really differs. And for me, I'm adamant that the training needs to go for all of children's ministry, every children's ministry volunteer. I also say every student volunteer. I also say training should be everyone who's on the welcome team, the greeting team, your security team, your parking lot attendants, anyone who comes in contact with a first-time visitor, because they're going to learn how to welcome and just treat a family with disabilities. Because I can promise you, in all of your ministries, especially in children's ministry, there's going to be several kids who you don't know have a diagnosis. The parents haven't told you because they're afraid that you're going to, you know, take away, you know, or tell them they can't come, or you're going to tell them that or they're afraid, you know, that things are going to change. So they just don't tell, or they don't even know they have a diagnosis. And you'll see that especially with their early childhood, up to kindergarten, where they haven't been in school yet to receive that diagnosis. But we want to encourage them and be positive about everything we do with them. And so that training, one of the key things, and I'll speak real quick on children's ministry training. I was a children's pastor for a while as well. And I've now only found 2 children's ministries in the country out of hundreds that I've worked with that have any training that talks about behavior. Well, guess what? The number one reason volunteers quit ministry, there's behavior and they don't know how to deal with it. And guess what? Neurotypical kids have behavior too, not just kids with disabilities. And we don't prepare everyone. All the training is on, you know, all the policies and procedures, which are important, but that's not there. So for training for a buddy, we have to equip them with a tool belt to know how to handle that behavior, how to identify things, how to recognize when something's happening. Because the bottom line, all behavior is a form of communication. And our job is try to figure out what they're communicating. And you know, a lot of times we just see bad behavior and we try to answer that by kicking them out and getting rid of them. Well, we can't do that. We got to figure out what that bad behavior is. And sometimes it might be because of something we're doing or something we're not doing. And so we just got to be aware of that and train. So I've actually gone and I've created a whole training program that I've done now for well over 500 churches, which is a case-based scenario training. I went, and when I first did this 12 years ago, I had the head trainer for the special ed district, one of the top special ed districts in the country here in our city. And her job was, she was a special ed teacher and she trained all the special ed teachers in her district. And she helped me write training. I'm like, oh, this is fabulous training. This is going to be so good. We went and taught the training to all of our volunteers. The very next week, major behavior. And the buddy that was in there working with this individual, deer in the headlight, didn't know what to do. So I jumped in, I helped, took care of it, got it calmed down. And then I kind of pulled her to the side later and said, hey, just want to check in. You look like you were afraid, didn't know what's going on. What happened? She's like, I didn't know what to do. I said, well, we went over that all the week before. And then here's what nailed me. She goes, I know we did, but I couldn't remember any of it. Well, I thought we had fabulous training. That training stunk. If you can't remember it 1 week later and apply it, it's not worth anything. So that's what most of our training is. So I went to my background. My background is they call me doc because I'm actually a pediatric ER doctor. I'm a physician. And in medicine, we've got the saying, see one, do one, teach one. And I teach everything through case scenarios. That's how I taught medical students. That's how I taught my residents, was by going through scenarios so that they would know how to do it when they saw it in real life. We do the same thing with our volunteers. And so I do a training that's about 2 hours. I spend an hour unpacking crisis prevention, how to identify behavior, how to work through behavior, all these things. And then I created 10 case scenarios in which I go through it and I'll say what the case is. For instance, a 7-year-old child goes running out of your classroom. What do you do? What do you do next week to prevent it? And I stop and I let all the volunteers talk amongst themselves and they have to figure it out. And then they tell me, guess what just happened? They're figuring it out and they're working through it. So they saw it. We kind of talked about it initially, and now they're doing it. They're doing it. And then they tell me as a group, we'll talk through it with everybody. I don't tell them how to do it. They tell me, and then I'll add to that. And then when they see it the next week or a month later or 3 months later, they've actually done it. And they're like, oh, I remember this, and they can do it. And we've seen a big decrease in behavior overall. And so that's real successful with that. So that's something that I can help offer, and I'd love to talk with you individually later about that. But that's one thing we can offer with SOAR that I do a lot with. But the training is going to be a vital piece that you have to have for those volunteers so that they feel comfortable and they feel confident. Having that, because many times our buddies are in there, and I always say, I've got one requirement. I've only got one requirement for someone to be a volunteer in a disability ministry. It's a simple question. Can you be a friend? Can you be a friend? That's all it takes. You don't have to be a SPED teacher. You don't have to be, an OT or a PT. You don't need any of that. That helps, but it comes down to, can you be a friend? That's where it starts. And because it's relational. This whole ministry is relational, and we learn them. And the other thing, and everyone here knows it, I say it all the time. If you know one child with autism, you know one child with autism. So what works for Johnny may not work for Susie. And we have to help teach them that. We also have to help them realize, oh, we've got transitions. The brain of an individual with disability can't transition. And so, when we are sitting there and we're doing craft time, and then we're getting ready to go to our story class, well, if we didn't give them that warning that we're going and we just move, they're going to have behavior because they can't transition from one thing to another. So we need to help prepare them with visual schedules. We can, tell them, hey, 3 more minutes, 1 more minute. And we can have countdown timers, visual timers to help them in doing that as we walk through. So these are all things we can talk through training to help them prepare for it. But it all comes down to being relational. At the same time, when we are having bad behavior, like I said before, all behavior is a form of communication. Here's one of the biggest things I learned, and I wish I remembered this when my kids were young. Instead, now I've got a 22-year-old, so I learned it too late. But what do we say to our kids, or what do we say as ministry leaders when someone is doing what we don't want them to do? We say, don't do X, stop doing, don't run, stop running, quit running. How many times does it work? Almost never. Well, then it dawned on me, my medical background finally kicked in. The human brain is wired that we hear the last word that's said. So we're reinforcing running. We're hearing running. We're not hearing the quit. Let me give you an example. Do not think of an elephant. Quit thinking of an elephant. Do not think of an elephant. All right, people, raise your hand if you're thinking of a squirrel. How many are thinking of a squirrel? None of you. I promise all of you are thinking of an elephant, right? Now raise your hand if you're thinking of an elephant. You all got an elephant, right? Yes, it's because that's the last word that you heard. But I told you not to. It didn't work. So what we need to do in training our volunteers is, instead of telling them what we don't want them to do, we refocus them on what we do want them to do. Instead of saying, don't, run, we can say, hey, Johnny, let's color a picture. 90% of the time, boom, they stop and they'll do it, because we're telling them something positive we want them to do and completely changes them, and they'll do it. And so that's something that we have to train our volunteers to do. And with practice, it eliminates a lot of these behaviors. Behaviors will escalate when we keep expecting the same thing to happen and we're not changing anything. And then our participants get frustrated and upset, and their level rises when we keep getting on them. And we got to remember that all of us can get frustrated with the situation. Our friends with autism or Downs or any disability, they don't know. We know how to communicate when we're frustrated. They don't know appropriate ways to share. And so their appropriate ways is just lashing out. And so by going through this will really help with that. So that's where I always say the training is a huge piece that we have to get. So I just kind of went on a big tangent there. I hope that was helpful. I'm going to shut up here for a minute and let you guys jump in or talk or say anything. I hope that's helpful. But let me leave it there, see what you guys have.
I'll jump in. I think what you said was right on, and it's great. I think it's a great reminder of how to approach special needs ministry. I also, like Mercedes and Kimberly, I was a special ed teacher, and I recently, and my husband and I stepped down from children's ministry because we were doing children's ministry and preteen ministry at our church. So it was just a lot. And my husband has disability, like back disabilities, and it was just really wearing on him. So they found a coordinator to take over, and this person happens to be like a chairperson committee of special needs. But even hearing Doc say that, I do see the mentality of trying to bring school to a church. And it's hard because you see a system that works, so you want to almost like in a forcing loving way do it, and it's not. And I feel, after being in children's ministry, obviously we stepped down and I did too, but I'm still a teacher there. I still work really close with the special needs families. I really feel that the Lord wants me to develop that area in our church. And the biggest thing I keep hearing the Lord tell me is what you just said, Doc. Training. They need to be trained, and then also, do we look into the congregation that has special needs background? And then God says no. It's like what you said, and just hearing you, Doc, and the other ladies, share. It is just confirming what God is. It's not about a position or title. It's about the heart, to serve a community of children with special needs. I don't teach now special needs. I homeschool my children, but that's always been something very dear to me. And my heart now is just really heavy because I'm not in that leader's role anymore, in that umbrella of children's director. But and there's this person, in my eyes, and mentally I'm like, oh wow, she's an administrator in a special needs and so that kind of, I don't want to say it makes me pull back, but I feel like, okay, maybe this is going to help develop it, but it's not happening. And I'm pretty much, we only have one service, and I don't want to go on a tangent, but we have and this is especially one child that's heavy on my heart, and the family is, she's severely autistic. And I mean, sometimes she comes in throwing herself on the floor, kicking, and just to bring her in is just like, oh God, what do we do?
Sure.
And I noticed that she's very different when I'm there. But then the thing is that I'm never at service. So, and then it's either me or this other this other woman that she also special needs teacher. So it's just the two of us grappling, and everyone's like, I can't do this. Like, I don't know what to do. And we tried the buddy, but even because there's no training, they're like, I don't know what to do. Like, because she's bitten teachers, she's kicked, she's punched, she's thrown things at us, the regular stuff. And I am learning her, like you said, Doc. I wrote it down. It's like, learn them, prepare them. And I already know when she's hungry, that sets her off. I know she's tired. I know what to expect. So I just know her demeanor when she doesn't communicate. And so I see the difference of behavior when other teachers are in a room, and I could hear in a sanctuary. And so that's where, yeah.
Yeah. So a couple things there. I'll just jump on, and again, if anyone else wants to jump in, please do. I definitely don't have to be the primary one talking with it. But one of the things I wanted to say is with that. Now, while I said, especially in elementary, love having, everyone be integrated and with a buddy, there are definitely kids, and it sounds like this one Carol's talking about, there are always going to be a handful of kids who will not tolerate an inclusion. And that's okay. We can't force that. And then we can set up, individualized rooms where we'd have a couple, people with them and work through that. We got to figure out what's right for each individual. Sometimes we try to force it so much to have them in with everyone else, and that triggers all the behaviors. But let's you kind of brought up one of the things there. Let's just shift a little bit to volunteers. I'm sure that's something we can always use more of, is volunteers. And it's definitely hard. I hear your heart, Carol. You want to be with them, but you also need to get your spiritual tank filled, especially when a church only has one service. You can't be doing that all the time. So hear that. Couple things. Let's talk on volunteers. First, the best recruiters we have for volunteers in a special needs ministry are our participants, our individuals themselves. They have an innate ability, and with all three of you, and I know Tate's been in this world a lot, you all know individuals with disabilities have this innate ability to not, and it's what I love about them, they don't see the outside, what someone looks like. They immediately see straight to someone's heart. They know if you like them, they know if you love them and care for them, and they don't care what you look like, what how you look, what sex you are, what color your skin is. It's your heart, and that's why it's being a friend. So do this. Watch who they go around on Sunday mornings to. They're going to go up to people who they recognize cares for them, and they're going to connect to them. And then you just follow back up with them. I'll share, one quick story for me. We did this with our teen and adult class. We would take them into our adult worship just for the worship portion. Then we'd pull them out to go downstairs for our Sunday school class, where we do the lesson there. Well, one of my guys was on the aisle, and all of a sudden I'm watching him. He's just kind of doing a little dance, and he kind of moves into the aisle and moves a little farther and farther until he gets to the other side of the aisle. And he reached out and he grabbed the guy's hand who was standing on the other side of the aisle. And they just started waving their hands back and forth. And the other guy just looked at him and fine, just started doing it. Well, I could have sat there and go, oh, look how sweet that is. That's really nice. What did I do? I'm like, oh, he just handpicked my next volunteer. So when we took everyone out, I tapped the guy on the shoulder and said, hey, I'm sorry, could I just borrow you real quick? I literally pulled him out of the service right then and there because I didn't know if I'd ever see him again because we were a large church and I had never seen him again. So I introduced who I was and I said, you know what? I just need to let you know, I just saw the interaction you had with one of our friends and I loved it. And I just need to let you know, he just handpicked you to serve in our special needs ministry. And I just would like to ask you if you would pray about considering serving in our ministry. Maybe we can grab a cup of coffee in 2 weeks. And his response, I had no idea you had anything like that. And he's like, yeah, I'll pray about it. I gave him my card and we met 2 weeks later. He's like, I'd love to do it, but I want to be in that class. I want to be with him. And I'm like, fantastic. We need more help there. Within 4 months, he became my lead teacher for that class and took over the whole thing. It's because my participant picked him out. It was someone I would have never known about. And so watch that. The other thing, and we'll just talk, this is my volunteer recruitment is one of my bread and butter. So when I was a disability pastor, I started with 3 individuals with disabilities, and I recruited 20 volunteers in the first month. I was on staff for 8 years before we left to launch SOAR as an independent nonprofit. When I left 8 years later, we were serving over 800 families with disabilities, and I had a volunteer base of 2,500 using this procedure that I'm going to tell you right now, the best recruiting skills possible. Almost every church I know has an 80-20 rule. 80% of the work's done by 20% of the people. I've been a children's pastor, I've been a disability pastor, and any ministry leader, we always have a shortage. You'll never, ever have enough volunteers. And our problem is we're constantly going after that same 20%. And that's why ministry leaders are always saying, we don't have any volunteers. We're asking the people who are already involved and already doing it. Meanwhile, what's happening when we have an 80-20 rule? 80% of the church comes in, goes to service, sitting there getting the message. I'm sorry, they're nothing more than a glorified knickknack collecting dust. That's all they are. And we got to knock that dust off of them and get that 80% in. But no one's doing it. So this is your job for all 4 of you. When you're in ministry, your primary job isn't making sure ministry is happening, making sure the volunteers there, making sure the kids there. Your first and number one job should be watching everyone that walks into your ministry area. And you observe for characteristic traits that would be a good trait for a volunteer. And then you go up to them. So Kimberly, I'm going to use you as my example of what I would do. So this is literally what I would do on a Sunday morning. I would come up to Kimberly and, she might be picking up her kids or doing something. I would literally come up and I'd say, hey, Kimberly, I'd put my hand on her shoulder and say, hey, do you have just a minute? You know what, Kimberly, I just need to let you know, the last few weeks, I've just been kind of watching you, observing you come in. And so the 4 most important letters are I-C-N-U. I-C-N-U. And so I'd say, I've been kind of watching the last, 3-4 weeks, and I just have to let you know, I see in you someone who has an amazing heart for people. I see in you someone who really cares for people. And I've got a simple question for you. Can you be a friend? I've never had anyone tell me, no, they can't be a friend when I'm asking them that at church. I'm like, fantastic. That's the only requirement we have to serve in our special needs ministry, where we're trying to transform the lives of these special individuals and teach them about Jesus. You don't have to have any experience. We can teach you all that. You just need to be a friend. But I see in you someone who can truly make a difference. Now, I want to ask you a favor. Kimberly, would you please take the next 2 weeks and pray and see if God would have you serve in our ministry? And then maybe we can grab a cup of coffee in 2 weeks and talk about it. I've also never had anyone tell me, no, they won't pray, especially when you're asking them that at church. It doesn't happen. And they're like, oh, okay, guess what my success rate is on that? 90 to 95%. And I've got the record. I told you I went from 20 volunteers to 2,500. It happens. Why? What did I do? I literally shoulder tapped. And I said, hey, Kimberly, I see in you these characteristics that would work well in our ministry. And we've got one requirement. You're a friend. You can do that. We can teach you everything else. But here's the kicker. Did I ask her to serve? Did I ask her to volunteer? No. I let God do my heavy lifting for me. I asked her to pray. I can't tell you the number of people who have told me they were ready to sit there and tell me no, but they were shocked when I asked them to pray. And then they're like, oh, yeah, I guess I can pray. I can't say no to that. And one guy, I'm never going to forget him. He told me, Doc, I was ready to tell you no, but then you said pray. I can't tell a pastor, no, I'm not going to pray. So I said, okay, pray. But then I wasn't going to pray. And the whole rest of that day, everything I was doing, I couldn't help but think about it. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I was thinking about that. So I started praying about it because I couldn't stop thinking about it. And then by the time of day 3, God broke my heart and I knew I had to do it. And he goes, I'm meeting now with you 5 days later instead of 2 weeks. I hope that's okay. But you've got me. I'm all in. I'm going to be a volunteer. God did that. I could have never done that. And he even told me, there's no way you would have ever gotten me. I didn't do it. It was God. So that's how we go about that. That's how we let God do all that work for us in getting those volunteers. And that's how you'll build it up. And repeatedly, we'll find the people. One thing we have to always remove from our vocabulary, never say we've got to fill holes, because people don't want to fill holes. People want to know they've got a vision and mission that they're doing. And so, we're transforming the lives of these kids. We're sharing Jesus with them because you know what? God created them on purpose and for a purpose. They're created in the image and likeness of God. They're great. There's nothing wrong with them. We're the ones who have the problems. And we're teaching them Jesus because they can love and learn Jesus. And it's our job to teach them that. And once they realize that and realize that autism doesn't have to be the A word at church, it can actually be okay. It's not scary, that these individuals are full of love. We want to have them there. And it's amazing. So I kind of did it again. I started talking a lot. I get off on tangents. I apologize. But thoughts with any of that? Hopefully that's helpful too. So.
Hey, I'm sorry, guys. I just want to say I want to bow out. My son keeps texting me to go pick him up from his friend's house, but I'm super excited to next time to meet with you guys. And I already been texting and emailing my director, and I'm gonna be like, I'm dragging you into this meeting. So hopefully he can do it. He also has 3 kids of his own with special needs and a family. So, but he says he actually receives your emails as well. So good. I want him to come. But I love you guys already. I'm your sister in Christ, and I can't wait to see you guys again.
Well, great meeting you, Mercedes. And I'll just say too, I'd love to just have a free hour consult for you and your entire team and just talk about what's going on with your ministry and how we can help you and handle any problems you got and help you think through that. So
thank you. I appreciate it, brother.
You guys.
Absolutely.
So,
thank you.
Right,
and I have your email.
We're always here for you.
Bye, guys.
All right. See ya. All right. Other thoughts? So Kimberly, we're kind of back with you. Where are you on the ministry right now? Where are you on the steps of getting something started?
So we're really looking for volunteers. So what you spoke on was great. That was great information to help us. Right now it's really like right now I'm pretty much the only buddy that we have. So just trying to recruit some more people and just get it started from there. So
yeah. How many kids with special needs are you aware of in your ministry?
I know of definitely 3 in the kids part that have 2 that have like more significant behavior needs. I know that there's more, and these are just like the most prominent ones because there's always going to be have disabilities that they don't need help and stuff.
Right.
We do have a kid that has on the spectrum for sure. Pretty like probably on the more severe side of the spectrum, but they're in early childhood, so I don't see them too much. But yeah, so 4, 5 at the most, probably right now.
Okay. All right.
I know we had a lot that came for our VBS that we had in the summer. There were several, but I can't give you an exact number on that.
Right. Yeah, you're I don't remember who it was. One of the volunteers that came to our event from your church was telling me about the VBS and said you guys had quite a few who showed up with that. So that was awesome. But
Yeah.
need to try to figure out how to help them take care of them. So
Yeah. So it can be overwhelming when you have that many and just not enough people,
right.
so yeah. But it was
Absolutely. Cool. All right. So yeah, that's always a big thing. Other things with volunteer recruitment, if we can get the word out to the rest of the church, that's always a big thing, and I don't know, we can, I'd love to do the same with you, do that consult and see how we can really help you guys. But see where the senior leadership is on board with that. Maybe be able to figure out a way to make announcements to the church, do a video, do things where we can just help raise awareness with that, and do it in a positive way so that people are going to want to do it with it, and that'll make a difference too. Yep.
That would be great. So I will definitely let my children's minister know and we'll reach out. Thank you.
Yep, and they can get a whole team on there with me. I have no problem with that. I just did one the other day with about 12 people, which is fine. So, all right, other things going on or questions or thoughts? So, Tate, are you in the process of writing another book right now?
No, we are use them now. We do that takes most of my time.
Okay, so you're in seminary right now, keeping busy with that instead. So.
Yeah.
Okay. And so are you looking at doing a dissertation then on day programs in churches?
No, I need to take like a music class and study a program.
Okay. All right. But I'm sure you're busy with seminary. That'll keep your plate full while doing ministry. Are you still doing ministry?
Yeah, I am still that. We are still in the beginning to do program and my students.
Okay, in the beginning with that. Okay, good. All right. All right. So any other questions or thoughts or things that anyone wants to talk on?
I had a question about your training that you would do for the church as far as
Yeah.
scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a virtual? I'm assuming it's virtual. I know you want to come to New York. You did tell me you wanted to come to.
I do. I do both. And it depends on the church. I'm actually doing a virtual training for a church in Coxsackie, New York here in a month. But I also do in-person trainings. So just a couple of weeks ago, I was up in Minnesota doing a training. So it just depends on the church on what they want to do. I can, some churches have brought me in where I'll also kind of evaluate the ministry, see how things are going, and then I can help tell them how they can change things maybe, or what they're doing well, how we can improve things. And then I can do multiple different trainings with them. So it just varies on each church what they want to do. The most cost-effective one, cheapest one would obviously be the virtual training. But yeah, I try to work with churches as much as I can with that and do whatever is right for them.
Okay, and I guess I could reach out to you separately just to
Just,
see.
just email me and I'm happy to send you all that information of
Okay.
everything we have.
Okay, we'll do.
Yeah.
I have one last question.
Yeah.
What advice would you give as far as moving forward in the interim while we get buddies and while we get more volunteers in the meantime, to assist the children, particularly right now with the autism and ADHD
Yeah.
that are.
Yeah. So, what I always say is you start with what you have. We don't have to worry about building this entire program and building an entire ministry. We don't have to worry about building, for 20 people if we only have 2 or 3
True.
that are really needing the help right now. So that's what we focus on and trying to find that help for them. And really work on, I do the shoulder tap in the ICNU, seeing the individuals you have, seeing if they're picking out anyone and trying to get them built up. I do try to still encourage them to get trained and so that they feel good and confident. What I see a lot of times is churches frequently will say, well, we don't have enough volunteers to train. And what frequently happens, they may only have 2 or 3 volunteers, which is great, but you work so hard at getting those 2 or 3 volunteers that these volunteers feel overwhelmed. They don't feel like they don't know what they're doing. And then they're going to bail because they don't know what they feel like they're not a help. And, I think someone mentioned it, when we have some kids who can be tough, can be hitters or biters, we need to train our team on being ready for that and reminding them what the vision is and mission, why we're there at the church. And that, it's just part of being in ministry. But, I have volunteers who come up to me and they're like, oh, Doc, I got bit. I'm like, congratulations, you're part of the bite club. And then, they're looking at me and like, what? Oh, and then all of a sudden, especially when they're teens, you see them kind of putting their shoulders back and raising up and they're like, oh, okay, it's like a rite of passage. Because especially you guys being sped teachers, it is a rite of passage. Everyone's going to get bit at some time. I've got multiple scars on me. And that's just the way it is. And some of those are from my child, who had autism. So that's just how it is. And it doesn't matter how good, how bad you are as far as a volunteer, it happens. But we need to let our volunteers know that that's okay, but remind them why we're there, what the whole purpose that we're doing this all for, and work through that. And so I'd say just trying to focus on trying to recruit the volunteers to meet the needs of who you have. At the same time, try and talk to the parents that you have right now too, and find out when they're going to come to church. The last thing you want to do, especially when you're small, it doesn't help you out if you've got 3 families and you recruit 3 volunteers, you got 3 individuals and you recruit 3 buddies, and then none of those families show up. You just worked really hard to get 3 volunteers and they feel like they're not needed. They may not come again when you do need them. So it really is a simple ask. Just telling the families, hey, we love you. We love when you come, but we really need to know if you're going to be here or not. And it's okay if you're not, but if you let us know, that way we can have a volunteer, a buddy to be able to be here with your child. And if you're not able to come or something happens or someone's sick or it's a bad morning, you could just text us and let us know. That way you can shift and rearrange people. And it just makes things a whole lot better. And then, obviously doing the same thing with your volunteers. The volunteers usually sign up saying they'll be there. Well, they're giving up their time, especially Carol, in your situation where, they're giving up their time. Well, they're giving up their service as well to be able to serve. So, in your case, you've got that added challenge in recruiting volunteers because you're not really going to be recruiting volunteers to be there on a weekly basis. At most, I would say, I would recommend they not be there more than every other week, because we want them in service the other times. So it might be that you try to, if you got 3 people, try to recruit 6 so that you can have them alternate, but maybe you can get more where you can get more of a break in there so that they're not getting burned out with that. But then that also goes for you too. We got to find the help for you and get them trained where everyone feels comfortable with that. So it does really come back to volunteers, trying to build them up, find the right people. Again, can you be a friend? That's what it is. And you don't need an instruction manual. I'm a parent, I'm a physician. I've never given out an instruction manual to a parent when I've given a diagnosis, and I never received an instruction manual for my son when we got the diagnosis. So I learned how to work with him by spending time and being relational. And so that's going to be the important thing. But we can teach things to help them try to be successful. But going again with the whole SPED teacher part of that, we're not here to try to help them meet milestones. The only milestone we want them to reach are spiritual milestones. And the one thing that I would really encourage all of you is don't ask for and don't even look at the IEPs for the kids. There's no need. Because, one, especially having that background, that's just going to be, you're going to be, oh, well, I can do that. We can do that here. And you're going to, because you guys are awesome and wonderful, you're going to automatically start thinking of ways you can figure out how to start working on that in Sunday school. Well, that's not the job of Sunday school. The job of Sunday school is to teach Jesus to them. And we need to do that. If you want to have a specialized program, let's create what I'd call an ISP, an individualized spiritual plan to figure out how we can meet their needs spiritually. But I always say, let's forget the IEP so we can focus on them. But it comes down to getting the volunteers, getting the people in place to meet the current need of where you're at, and then let's build from there. But it doesn't do us any good to try to plan for 50 people. We need to focus on who you have currently and build from there. When I had 3, I wasn't planning on the 800. It came, but it came slowly. So, we just have to think through that.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Hopefully that helps. So yeah, forget those IEPs, Carol. So that's one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of the special ed teachers make when they're in the school, when they're in churches. And then on the reverse side, the parents start expecting the church to help in meeting those IEP goals. And so that leads to frustration when that doesn't happen. So that's why I don't even look at them. I don't even want to know what they are. But where it can help would be if the parents are having problems at school and they'd like your opinion, that's where you can speak into it, maybe give some guidance there as a friend, as a counselor, but it's outside of church, if that makes sense. All right. Any other things going on or thoughts or questions? You have something there, Kimberly? Oh, okay. I thought it's out there. All right. Well, I don't want to just keep everyone for the sake of keeping everyone either. So, we don't have anything else. I know it's getting late, especially for our friends in New York. You've got an additional hour on us, so almost 9 o'clock there for you. So I want to be respectful there with that. But if there's other things, I'm happy to talk through it. But you guys don't have anything else right now. I think we've covered a lot for you to kind of think about and go away with that. Couple things I do want to just share with you as well, kind of think about. Other thing that we have to offer you, one, Kimberly, it's super easy. We're in your backyard, but also for you, Carol, and for you, Tate, we host the nation's largest disability day camp at SOAR. And we do it every summer. We have done 2 weeks the past couple of years. This year, we're looking to add a third week. We'll have 1 week in Lee Summit, 1 week in Lenexa, and we're looking for our third location right now. We'll hopefully have that nailed by the end of next week or 2 weeks, and then we'll get that announced. But our camps, the thing that I want everyone to realize, we are starting to promote them as vacation destinations for your families. As a family, it is so hard to travel when you've got a child with special needs. You can't just go wherever you want and take a vacation like most people do, because it's really difficult. Well, you can come to Kansas City and have your individual go to our camp if they're at least 3 years old. We start at 3 years old, but we go up. Our oldest camper has been 77 years old. So we truly take all diagnoses, all ages. We have a full medical team, full behavior team, so we can handle anything and everything. And then it's 40 hours of respite care for that family, 8 hours a day for 5 days, that they're going to have a great experience. Our theme for next year is Soarland, which is going to be a game night theme. And we're hoping to create our own game board. If anyone likes games and wants to help create that, let me know. We're trying to create the first, to my knowledge, the first disability board game that we want to actually create, market, and sell. And then during the day, the parents can then spend time with their other kids who normally get neglected, for lack of better word, because so much time is taken up with our individuals with special needs. So they can go to all the things in town, or Worlds of Fun, or Oceans of Fun, zoo, whatever it is, whatever they like. They can do things for 8 hours a day and create these great, amazing memories and one-on-one time and great bonding. And then everyone can come back together at night, whether it be at a hotel or with friends or family, and then create a family memory at night. People might be going, but you don't understand. We've got disabilities, we got wheelchairs, whatever. Doesn't matter. We have, to our knowledge, the only known disability travel agent who happens to live here in town, is a mile from our office, and she will help arrange all the travel and arrangements for our families with that. So share that with everyone. We're hoping to be open registration within the next month. But that would be a great thing to share with your families, given an opportunity they don't normally get to do. So, all right. Well, anything else I can do for you all?
No, I just want to comment that I loved what you said about not forcing the children to be a part, like inclusion. Don't force that. And, it's all individual. I appreciate hearing that, because, yeah, it's good. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan for the inclusion, but I'm a bigger fan of doing what's right for the child, and that's what we have to keep in the forefront. Because if we're pushing it and causing behaviors, they're not going to be able to hear about Jesus, and that's our bottom line. That's what we want, and I know that's everyone's heart here. So just keep that in mind. And sometimes that's harder. And the other thing I'll challenge all of you, especially as they're getting older. Think how we can have our individuals with disabilities be volunteering and serving. And sometimes that means having extra volunteers to help them serve. That's okay, but that's what God calls them to do too. So we can think through all that as well. So, all right. Well, guys, let me close with some prayer. I'll give you an extra half hour back to your night. All right. Heavenly Father, God, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for everyone that were here, and just pray that you will help us in doing ministry. God, these are your families, your kids, your ministry. Just guide us and direct us. Lord, I pray for all these programs here tonight. Pray that you help everyone raise up the volunteers they need, get the training they need, get the programming, whatever it is. God, I just pray that tonight was helpful. They got the information they need, and realize that we're not alone. We all are in this together. We can all rely on one another and have one another to help us through everything going on. And God, we just thank you now for loving us and and sending your son to die for us. And just pray this now in your great and holy name. Amen. All right. Our next meeting will be again next month, the fourth Thursday next month, which let me make sure I get the right date. That will be Thursday, the 26th of October. And it's an even month, so we go back to the daytime. That'll be from 12:30 to 2:30 Central Standard Time for that one. And then just to plan ahead, November and December we take off because the fourth Thursday ends up being Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we'll take off for those 2 months, and then we'll get back together in January. But I'm always here if anyone needs anything, but hope to have you all back in October. So you all have a blessed night. We'll see you later. God bless.
You too. God bless you.